week, I murdered a rock, injured a stone, hospitalized a brick. I'm so mean, I make medicine sick.
You're going to get a unified champion after that's all over. There's just one belt out there that's missing. So,
well, speaking of that one belt, there is sect the boxing fans who want to see Errol take on Terence Crawford. What is hindering this fight from happening, in your opinion?
Economics. And you don't really want to insult a guy like Terence Crawford, who's a tremendous talent. And I'm not taking away anything from his talent, but he hasn't been built into a pay-per-view star. And I'm not saying that to throw shade at the guy, but you got to go on his track record. You got to go and look at what he's done, in the pay-per-view fights that he's been at, been involved in. And that it's not my job to tell anybody how to make him a pay-per-view star. We have enough work on our hands dealing with, trying to make our own guys into pay-per-view stars, but he just hasn't been built. And trust me, if there is money in him fighting Errol Spence where he could get what he wants and Errol could get what he wants, that fight would get made. But you don't want to insult the guy. Nobody wants to insult this guy and make him an offer that's insulting. Nobody wants to do that.
Those are the words of Tim Smith once again as he explains the reason why Errol Spence has not fought Terence Crawford, and he blames it on economics. I like how people try to say insulting things without being insulting, and what I grab from this is he's like, well, he hasn't been made a pay-per-view star. Like, he's blaming someone else for it, like Bob Arum, because he's been with Bob Arum the whole time. So he's like, well, he's that type of guy that, we don't want to insult him with, with our offer. You know what they're really saying? The counterpunch, what Tim's saying is, what he's saying is the fact that they don't have the money to pay Terence Crawford what he's accustomed to get paid. They talk about Yordenis Ugas, Keith Thurman, Deontay Wilder. They talk about these guys, probably exception of Deontay Wilder, but like all these guys that they supposed to make quote-unquote stars. Like, what has Yordenis Ugas done that Terence Crawford hasn't done? In fact, wasn't Yordenis Ugas' fight with Manny Pacquiao on pay-per-view very low? Why? Because he was a replacement for the fighter that he was supposed to fight. Okay? And when you can't pay a person, that's what you're going to tell them. Let's look at it this way. Let's say you're accustomed to making $100,000 a year. Okay? And you work for Coca-Cola. And you leave Coca-Cola and Pepsi contacts you, but you already hear that Pepsi's having problems keeping their employees happy and satisfied with their salaries. So why would Pepsi turn around and offer what he made offer that person or that employee or that ex-employee what he made at Coca-Cola? They won't. They will say the exact same thing, because if they were going to make an offer, if Pepsi was going to make an offer to that employee that used to work for Coca-Cola, they would first start off by saying this, like, look, I don't want to insult you, and I know this is probably what you're not accustomed to, but we have a salary for $60,000, so that's $40,000. That's someone else's salary that you're cutting off the top of what he's accustomed to. This is the same shit with PBC and Tim Smith. What he's saying is, I don't want to insult the guy because he already knows what he's worth. He already knows what he got paid, and he gets paid or whatever. He knows that that Terence Crawford won't accept any bullshit that he's not accustomed to, only to fight a guy that I know that y'all are bullshitting. See, that pay-per-view model, what they do, they make demands on the idea or the fact that these numbers or these pay-per-views are going to do a certain amount of numbers. So if it doesn't do that, then in return, you can't blame your promotional company, right? You got to blame the marquee value or whatever the society of today, okay, of what's going on. You know, they'll throw that COVID shit out there any day of the week, okay? And see, with Mikey Garcia, they knew that would be a hit because Mikey Garcia's fans and his people support him. And since he was undefeated and he was fighting another bigger undefeated guy, they were going to support him nonetheless. Okay, other than that, Errol Spence hasn't done the numbers like that since. Okay, Danny Garcia is another fighter. What has he done? Okay, what has he done that Terence Crawford hasn't? You see what I mean? So at the end of the day, this is what we're dealing with. We're dealing with a guy that doesn't want to see his fighter lose to that other opponent. They could fork up the money, but they also know this. They know if Errol Spence gets beat, we have no more leverage in the welterweight division. Why? We don't have any leverage because if we put Errol in there with Terence and Terence beats Errol Spence, the golden goose, our last chance for that Mayweather model is fucking over. They know it. That's why they're making Yordenis Ugas and Errol Spence. Why? Because they can control that. Errol Spence and Yordenis Ugas are both on the same platform. They were both in that situation, in that territory of the PBC. So they're familiar with the politics. They're familiar with, hey, these are going on pay-per-view because the pay-per-view is going to take care of that other side that we can't take care of, or the production or the promotional company, or the networks rather, won't take care of these days for whatever reason. Okay, that's what that's about. And keep in mind, if you hear Leonard Ellerbe saying things like, you know what, will we pay Devin Haney the amount of money Eddie Hearn says? Absolutely not. That's all you need to know about the PBC Showtime Al Heyman outfit. They will not pay up front. They will not guarantee you shit. And they will not guarantee Terence Crawford that amount of money either. Especially when he's that type of fighter, they could give a shit of how good he is. They're not going to pay him because they don't have the cash. Okay, and I've been telling people since I've heard it makes sense. Pay-per-view, 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 pay-per-view. They're doing that because they don't have guarantee. They don't have that. So they have to create it, and how they create it, they expect us to pay for it, to promote it. That's what they're doing. Okay, so him saying, oh, well, yeah, we will once have a unified champion. Dude, you already got one. Errol Spence is already the unified champion. Oh, now we're just more unified. We have there's only one belt left. He shouldn't even said that. But he knew it was coming. But that is his response. But anyway, you guys tell me what you think of Tim Smith addressing that Terence Crawford is not a star in the sport of boxing. That's why the Errol Spence and Terence Crawford fight will not happen. Of course, please subscribe. And you guys been Counterpunched. Peace.